So when I say sorority, you know exactly what video I'm talking about.
We've been waiting for you all summer, and we're so glad you're finally here.
Alright, hello everybody. I'm back with another video. This time, we're going to be talking about sororities and fraternities, aka Greek life at UW Madison. Sorry if I sound a little sick today. It's springtime and I have really bad allergies, and so I've been sneezing and coughing and crying all day, and don't even get me started. Also, the song, like the interior crocodile alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater. That's been stuck in my head all freaking day. It's ridiculous, and my parents don't understand what's going on, and so every time I say it, they're like, "What are you saying?" And then I tell them, "Oh, nothing," because it sounds like I'm going crazy. Okay, so first off, let's start with some general Q&A. I guess there's not really a reason you should listen to me because I'm not actually in a sorority, but I have friends who rushed and are in sororities and fraternities, so I know both processes really well because I got to hear about it every night of the first few rounds and during bid day and stuff. So I was going to rush originally, but I changed my mind because engineering took up a lot of time and I didn't want to have to focus on something else, and I also play Ultimate Frisbee, and so I thought that 3 different clubs at the same time, or 3 different activities at the same time, including school, would be a lot to handle. How many sororities and fraternities are there? Well, in the Panhellenic Society, or which you would call Greek life, there's 12 sororities and 26 fraternities. Every year or every few years they add one or subtract one because a fraternity got kicked off campus or something, but for right now it's 12 and 26. This is not including the professional and multicultural sororities and fraternities as well, so I'll be talking mostly about the Greek life ones, but if you want more information about that, there's tons of it online and on Reddit threads or something. All of the professional Greek life, like I mentioned, you can find and sign up for at the activities fair that happens during fall and spring at the Cole Center. So only about 14% of the campus is involved in Greek life. This is, I believe, the least of all of the Big Ten schools. I think the biggest goes to UIUC or Illinois Urbana. But even if there isn't such a huge presence of it on our campus, don't be afraid to at least rush if it's something you might be interested in, because you'll have a ton of people that are rushing with you. So you won't feel alone even though the percentage is kind of small. And like I mentioned before, even though we have professional and multicultural Greek life, Panhellenic Greek life is the only Greek life with a formal rushing process. So this means that they're the only ones where you have to interview and go through multiple rounds of interviewing and picking. In terms of Greek life, I'll start with the fraternity rushing process because it's relatively short and straightforward. I'll put a number right here for the timestamp if you want to fast forward to sorority stuff. The fraternity rushing process is essentially 2 weeks of events run by all 26 of the fraternities. As a guy, you would show up to whichever events that you're interested in, talk to the active brothers, and if you guys get along, they'll invite you to extra events that are invite only, and using this you can gauge how interested they are in you and how likely they are to give you a bid. Unlike sororities, there aren't rounds that you have to go through, and basically you're not going to have any idea who gives you a bid until bid day, which is different for every fraternity, so there's different days, and once you get your bids, you get to pick which fraternity you want to actually pledge for. So for this reason, it might be a good idea to make friends with people that are already in frats while you go to events and get their phone numbers, because then you can ask them if that frat's actually interested in you and basically figure out where you are so you can spend more time at the frats that are interested. One tip is you should never talk to a frat about how another frat wants you, because they only have a certain number of open spots every rushing season, and so they might be less likely, or they will be less likely to give you a bid if they see that you're more interested in another fraternity. Because if they give you a bid and you don't pledge, that's basically a spot that they have to kind of take someone off the wait list, or no one gets that seat. There's no dress code, but boys usually wear whatever's trendy. I think my friend, he wore quarter zips and some sort of like Sperry's, you know, boat shoes, and like jeans one day, and then he wore like shorts and a hoodie the other day. There's not really a dress code, but basically try to figure out the vibe of each of the frats and dress accordingly when you go to their events. And my final tip about rushing a frat is do your research on which frats have like kind of which morals, because some frats are more academically oriented while some frats are like more social party oriented. How popular the frat is also determines how bad Hell Week or initiation is going to be. And if you don't want to go through a really terrifying, I've heard stories, but if you don't want to go through like an awful initiation process in order to get to a frat that you don't actually like, I would recommend not going to their events, of course. Alright, now on to the sorority rushing process. There are 4 major rounds, and in each round there is a different dress code and a different set of interview processes. I'll go through what I think would be the best way to dress for them based on kind of like what I thought the UW atmosphere felt like, how the temperature, weather is, and what you do in each round. At UW Madison, fall recruitment is the week before classes start. The weather usually varies super wildly, so it could be really hot during the day and really cold at night, so keep in mind the weather when you decide the outfits that you're going to wear for rushing that day. And as I mentioned, the fall rushing process takes place the week before classes start, but if you feel like you don't want to rush in the fall, there's only some sororities that are qualified or allowed to have an ongoing rushing process where it's like kind of an informal interview. But if you have a sorority that you're sure that you want to rush for, be sure to try and rush in the fall, because I'm not sure if that sorority will be around in the spring. And despite what everyone says, how you dress does matter. It's kind of your first impression during the interviews, and if you're kind of awkwardly and off-trend dressed, a lot of sororities are going to take that the wrong way. As harsh as it sounds, the real truth is that they will judge you based off of how you dress and how well you style yourself according to the theme for that round. Okay, let's start with the first round. This is the most casual round, and people tell you that you can wear like shorts, sandals, and stuff, but they'll usually give you a t-shirt for you to style, like you can cut it up. Depending on the rules, I'm not sure if you can actually cut it up, so make sure you like figure that out. But they want to see how you style it in your outfit and what your vibe is when everyone's given like the same sort of piece to style. Last year it was a pink t-shirt. The colors vary year to year. Usually shorts and cute skirts or like trendy jewelry, kind of delicate stuff with white sneakers like mom jeans, and sandals are the norm. As for makeup and nails, this is kind of up to you. Some campuses have like a specific nail color and makeup style that they want you to wear, but UW definitely isn't one of those campuses. I would recommend wearing like a neutral nail color like pink or white, so you can keep it the same for the following rounds, because as you go through the rounds they get more formal, and a white nail color you can basically wear with anything. I would also recommend to have like your nails and toes match, your fingernails and toes match, because it just kind of looks a little more uniform. As for makeup, this is, like I said, totally up to you. You can go with like a supernatural look, or you can put on a lot of makeup, makeup artist style. It just depends on how you like to wear it. As for rushing itself, you get a schedule of which houses you're going to go to at what time. I think in the first round you go to all 12 houses, and you'll be waiting in a line outside with people who have the same block as you. And once they invite you inside, it's a conversation with one of the chapter members. Essentially, this is where you and a sister will be able to gauge how good of a fit you'll be for each other. And this is because after the first round, you're gonna list your top few houses and drop the houses that you didn't like, while the chapter houses are gonna do the same thing. And essentially they cross-match it, and whichever houses you picked match whichever houses picked you will determine your schedule for the next round. So for round 2, this is kind of an afternoon tea vibe. A lot of girls wear summer dresses and skirts with like wedges and sandals. Some of the outfit trends that I thought were personally adorable were like the brightly colored sundresses with little flower patterns on them, or pastel themed outfits, thin jewelry, platform espadrilles. I really love platform espadrilles. Those are so cute, the lace-up kind. Hair scarves and fabric headbands. Usually hair, you don't do much with your hair during this round. You could leave it down and curl it, or leave it half up, half down, tie a hair scarf in it, kind of like the Italian style where you like put it around the back there and leave like a few strands poking out. Think more soft girl or vintage Pinterest board. I might actually make a few Pinterest boards for each round and link them below, so go through the description and see if I actually did that. The second round is just another round of conversations, but you should be sure to remember the 5 B's to avoid. This is bucks, belief, booze, bush, and boys. This roughly translates to money, religion, politics, drinking, and of course, guys. This is just kind of like a general topics to avoid because you don't want to sound tacky or materialistic in your first few interviews. I would just save that for when you actually get into a sorority. It's just that when you have this is kind of based on a quick first impression, so if you spend all your time talking about those 5 topics, it just doesn't leave a good impression. So for the third round, you want to wear something that's super similar to round 2. But you want to change it up like a little bit. You want to add one element of your outfit that's a little more upscale than the rest. So for example, if in the first round you were wearing like a cute sundress, some flats, and a hair scarf, maybe try some suede heels, like a crystal watch, or like a chain necklace, just something that gives like a little extra oomph and upgrades the style a little more. Like, it's not semi-formal, so you don't have to wear like a nice dress or anything yet, but you just want to stand out in your own way and, I don't know, just make yourself look a little different than you did in the first round. Some common things that I see that people change are fancier jewelry, curling their hair and putting it up in an updo, some bolder accessories, or like I said, suede heels. This vibe, you want to think kind of like tea with the queen instead of tea with the duchess. Just wear something cute, that's all. You'll understand once you get here. I can't describe the vibe that I'm thinking of, so it's really hard for me to put into words.
You cannot be found. I'm just dirt dog trying to make some money. So
I swear, if my family walks in on me making a YouTube video, I'm gonna cry. Alright, on to preference round, or as it's most commonly known, pref round. This is the most formal round of rushing, and it is the round right before bid day. It's your final chance to make a good impression, and so all the chapter members are going to be wearing formal dresses, jewelry, makeup, like the whole nines. Or dressed to the nines, I think. It's semi-formal is kind of required at this point, and so a lot of girls choose to wear some solid print dresses, almost like a prom style short dress, not like evening gown, but usually shorter dresses are common. If it's a little cold out, go for a teddy coat or a leather jacket, even a camel coat, something that'd be really stylish and formal to go over your clothes. For shoes, some sort of heel, wedge, or fancy flat in like a neutral color is, I think, the best way to go about it. Avoid flats as much as you can, just because I've mostly just seen heels around. Don't wear sneakers, because that's just a little too informal and it might give off the wrong vibe. Hair can be curled or straight, up or down, just make it look nice. I feel like there's such a common theme here. I'm just repeating, look your best, look nice. Obviously looks aren't everything. Conversation is one of the key elements to actually connecting with your dream sorority. So I'm just trying to tell you to let your personality shine when it comes to dressing yourself. However, there's just some general guidelines that a lot of people tend to follow. This day is also probably the best for heavier makeup if you like to show off kind of the flick of the wrist or some glitter or something. I think it'd be really cute. Some accessories that I think would really upgrade your outfit are like crystal watches, you know, the kind with like the gold or silver straps, some like statement pieces that go with a neutral dress, maybe if your heels are like lace-up kind, or if you have some crystal embellishments. I really like having like the updos with like the little pearls or crystals stuck in there. Whatever you want. Maybe like a cute tip would be to bring a tiny leather bag, you know, the kind with the little chain straps and the alligator texture, just to put your phone and money in. You're not going to need a lot because recruitment is super close to the dorms, or the sorority houses are super close to the dorms, so it's not much of a trek. But if you have something cute to put your stuff in, it'll make it easier on you because dresses usually don't have pockets. Just remember that this is your last round before bid day, so don't be stressed, be excited, and try to make a memorable last impression. This is also the day that you're going to have the least number of houses. You might have anywhere ranging from like 1 to 5 houses probably left. So just, if you have one house, you probably know what the outcome is going to be, if you want to be in that house or not. But give it your all, and I'm sure it'll turn out for the best. Alright, so you've made it to bid day. During this day, everyone goes back to all the casual wear, like the shorts, skirts, and sneakers, because basically after you go into the auditorium and open up your envelopes at the same time to find out what house you're in, you're gonna run there with all of your new sisters, and they'll give you a shirt to wear so you can take a bunch of photos. So essentially, don't go with like overalls or something, and don't go with something that's really hard to change out of, because you're just gonna have to change on the front lawn. Like, I'm not joking, you're literally gonna be there in a bra and pulling on a different shirt. And the final thing for bid day is, no matter what happens, this isn't a reflection of who you are. If you didn't get the house that you were hoping for, at the very worst, what's gonna happen? You're gonna have to rush again. So just think about that being the worst thing that could happen to you. And if you got the house that you really wanted to, congratulations! You essentially got everything you wanted. So don't stress about it. This is supposed to be a really fun process. I know girls get really emotionally invested in it, and I've heard stories of girls kind of sobbing in the auditorium because they didn't get the sorority they wanted, or they got dropped on like the last round. This really sucks, but I believe that whatever happens will happen, and if you're meant to be in a sorority, you will get that sorority. Okay, beyond that, now we're gonna go on to fun tips, some advice, and kind of tough, hard to swallow pills. So the first thing is going to be that Greek life is expensive, and it will take a lot of time out of your schedule. Typically people that are in Greek life, that's like the only thing they do besides school, but the rewards are going to be worth it for some people, and if they're not, you're probably going to end up dropping. The impact on your academics is going to honestly depend on what major you're in. If you're in a major that requires more credits and more time and tougher classes, you're gonna not be able to spend as much time at your sorority or fraternity, and this is gonna lead to you feeling kind of left out. So also keep that in mind if you want to rush. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm sure that there are engineers and like business majors and all that stuff in Greek life, but they make it work their way. You just have to essentially analyze your own life and figure out if that's something you can do. But speaking of academics, there is a certain GPA threshold that you're gonna have to maintain, so sorority life and fraternity life is not all like fun and games. You have to maintain it in order to be able to stay in it. You will be required to attend events, most notably Humorology or Humo. This is a fundraising event that all the sororities and fraternities participate in. It's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a kind of, people do dances and plays and all that stuff, but they have to practice a ton and do a lot of like fundraising beforehand. And I know that this is kind of probably one of the most time-consuming parts of Greek life throughout the year, especially. It occurs, I think, maybe in the first month or two of school after rushing is over, and pledges are definitely expected to spend the most time there. This event is going to take a ton of time, and so if you're a pledge spending time at initiation and humo and school, you're gonna probably end up getting home at like maybe 8 or 9 and then doing your homework until like 2 or 3 a.m. in order to be able to be ready for classes the next day. Aside from this, every chapter has a philanthropy or like a niche that they'll fundraise for, like St. Jude's, animal shelters are common, and like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And these are also going to have events throughout the year aside from like chapter meetings and pledge or active member events. You'll have the opportunity to live in the sorority or frat house during your sophomore year. This is about the same cost as it would be to live in a dorm, and it's kind of a dorm style thing, except you're living with your brothers and sisters. So also keep this into consideration when you decide when you want to rush, because if you decide to put off rushing until next year, you're not going to be able to live in the house. So if that's something you really want to do, you're going to have to rush during your freshman year. Usually sororities are going to have specific nights that they go out, like a Tuesday, Thursday. Those are the most common, and a specific bar that they're going to go to. This also entails you having to have an ID. So I'm not going to imply anything, but just think about it, that's all. Sororities are also typically associated with certain fraternities and will be seen at those parties the most. And I don't want to be controversial, but I'm going to call out SAE and say that's probably not a frat that you want to go to, especially as a girl, because there's been a lot of allegations of sexual assault, like drug use, like bad drug use, and racial slurs being thrown around, so I kind of don't like that frat at all. Okay. Damn. Whew. Alright, next, I can't stress how important it is to be wearing comfortable shoes when you go rushing. So all sororities and fraternities are located on or near Langdon Street, and that's kind of like near State Street, and I would call it maybe a quarter mile from the Southeast dorms and like half a mile from the Lakeshore dorms. I could be totally off, but I think it's a huge trek to get there from like the Lakeshore dorms, and it is kind of a walk to get there from Southeast as well. Of the sorority members that I know at UW, they are some of the sweetest people around. This doesn't mean, though, that sororities and fraternities don't have their own problems. And I'm talking about the hard-to-swallow pill and the elephant in the room, which is race. When you think of a sorority, you typically think of a white blonde girl kind of screaming and running around with her white blonde friends. And since UW is so white, aside from the multicultural and professional sororities, I haven't really seen a lot of people of color rushing or being accepted into sororities. And I know this is kind of hard for me to argue because there's a disproportionate amount of minorities that actually rush, and so there are less people that actually end up in sororities. And what I have to say about this is if a sorority discounts you based on your race, they're not the sorority for you. Not all sororities will do this, and so if you are being interviewed by a sorority that seems kind of racist, then there's definitely a better sorority that deserves you. And since I'm friends with a lot of sorority girls, it's hard for me to argue from both sides of this argument fairly, but there's jokes that sororities are super white, and there's kind of a reason for that. So finally, all I have to say is that if you're a white girl that ends up being in a sorority at UW, in the future, when you're interviewing girls to be in your chapter, just make sure that you're actually talking to them and speaking or gauging their personalities rather than just recruiting the one token girl of color every rush season. That was a lot. I'm kind of exhausted, but that was it. That's all the information I have for this video. If you wanted to know something more about sororities and fraternities or Greek life that I haven't talked about in this video, make sure that you DM me or put a comment that requests another video on a specific topic. I'll be making a video about the engineering school next. Go Badger Engineers! But that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you liked it, dislike if you thought that my information was misleading or something. Make sure you subscribe, comment, all that jazz. I'll see you in the next video.